How's it, folks? Dying Light 2 has just dropped the Community Update 3 or patch 1.13, and it is a big one. Now, after playing around with it for a while, it's definitely a step forward for Techland, especially after the stream of bad news they've been in lately. Let me go through the highlights of the patch quickly, and then I'll go through the more in-depth stuff later. There will be chapter marks if you wish to jump around. And then I'll also be talking about the Halloween event later on in the video. So let's get started off with the weapon repair system at Craftmasters has basically swapped over from the correct charm. The charm now does something else entirely, where it gives an increased damage of I think about 25% when the weapon is at 15% or less durability. But you can now repair any of your weapons at the Craftmaster for a decent amount of money and a couple of crafting resources, which I think is a positive step forward, because now it actually gives you a money sink. Especially as towards the end of the game it's almost always overflowing with cash and not really anything to spend it on. Now you can actually repair weapons you want to keep if they've got good attributes. Speaking of weapons, enemies will now drop their weapons after you kill them. They are generally the rare blue type weapon, but sometimes they can be the purple one, although you probably have better weapons at this point anyway. You can also dismantle the mods from the weapons to earn back some resources, but it will also drop your durability for that weapon. And onto another big one, they've added replayability to GRE anomalies. Once you've beaten the normal regular anomaly, revenant, whatever you want to call it, there will be a little poster outside the little enclosed venue, and then you just activate that, and then you basically just need to kill the revenant again. This time it's significantly tougher, it hits harder, and it also spawns in with either 2 goons or 2 demolishers, and they generally all have poison attacks. It's also probably the best way at the moment to farm exotic weapons, which is a new weapon rarity with a new attribute that can basically have its own playstyle built around it, which I think is pretty cool. I will probably make another separate video about the GRE anomalies later on, as it's a pretty decent way to farm XP and exotic weapons. Moving on, they've also added new enemy variants. So there's now an armored Varl, which basically is like the normal armored Barters that were around previously, just got different colored armor, and they take a couple of extra hits to take down. But then there's also the electric Varl and the electric Barter, which they look like they were in a blue jumpsuit with wires or cables wrapped around their bodies, and they will shock anyone if you hit them in the chest or whatnot, including you, and it deals a fair amount of damage. But if you decapitate them without hitting their body, you don't actually trigger the electric shock, so that's probably the way to take care of them. And they've also reintroduced Howlers back into the normal world, whereas in the last couple of patches it was kind of difficult to spot them, but now they fairly frequently all over the place, and they come out during the day. And their screaming now actually has a sound effect back in, because the previous patches they were screaming and were silent for some odd reason. But the scream will now also attract Varl, so this will probably be a decent way for you guys to farm the uncommon trophies without dealing with the volatiles chasing you, as it's kind of safe to do it during the day. Another big change they've done is added in new finishers, so you basically need to stun the enemies, and then you'll get a little pop-up where I think it's F on PC or square on Xbox, I'm not quite sure, and then tap that and you deal a finisher depending on whatever weapon or unarmored you have in your hands. And they did say they're going to add more in the future as well, so that's pretty cool. It's just a little difficult to trigger the finishers when you kill the enemies in like 1 or 2 hits. They've also added 4 new knives in the city, so I don't know if this is including the in-game events and bundles, or if they've scattered the blueprints around the city like they did when they first introduced weapon blueprints. So if I find the 4 knife blueprints around the city, I'll make another video showing you where they are. They've also changed the Transmog a little bit, so you can hide specific gear like your paraglider backpack. You can also dismantle your gear instead of selling them. And they've also added food items scattered around the city, generally in like those little baskets or in the fridges. Eating them will restore a little bit of health. They've changed how the weather and the rain looks. I'm actually really happy with this change, because previously whenever it rained it would look like there was Vaseline smeared all over your screen, but now it's actually significantly clearer And the audio has also improved. You get like a wet sloshing foot sounds when you're running through the rain, and the thunderstorm is actually significantly better. So I really like this change. They've also added in the carrier and the carrier leader outfits. You get that by completing the first quest for the carriers, and then you get the leader outfit by completing the entire quest change. And then they've also made a couple of legend level tweaks where you basically can get extra XP from different sources, and they increase the buffs from some of the skills. The Joker damage also applies to throwing weapons, and this is also a big one. You can exchange trophies for legendary level XP. So if you've finished upgrading whatever you want to upgrade, you can just turn in all of your trophies, get a whack of XP all in one go. I don't know if they're going to change the balancing of that at the moment, but it's actually quite nice that they've added that in as well. So now farming XP and farming trophies and whatnot can add on top of each other and kind of compound, and you get more and more rewards out of that. So that's pretty cool. They've also added sorting options for your stash, so it's not as cluttered as it used to be. They've changed the color grading for Haran and Gritty Knights as well, and they've added text chat for PC players for online, so that's pretty cool. And last but certainly not least, I toggled the changes immediately, is the bloom effect. So you can now toggle off glow, light streaks and lens flare under video advanced options, and it's so much better with all that turned off. I'm so glad that they finally changed that. And moving on to the rest of the updates. In co-op, they've synchronized animation and timing of volatile shooting projectiles at the player. In the gameplay section, they've added hag reactions to being hit properly. They've added a charge time required for the weapon throw. Your items shouldn't slip from your hands anymore. So I know quite a few people were complaining about that, so let me know if that sorted it out for you. They've adjusted the time needed to receive the gold medal in the Prime 8 challenge. They fixed some instances in which the final boss was stuck idling. Fixed an issue where NPC characters would clip with Frank in the fisheye. Player can pick up thrown weapons that land on lab crystals. Patched up exploit that allowed player to farm infected on level 4 chase in a certain spot. I'm not sure which one they're referring to here, because I checked the volatile hive in the Dark Hollow just south of the fisheye, and that still works pretty well, so I don't think it's that one. They've also fixed the flashlight behavior during cutscenes, lowered the value of magnetic leap during combat, reduced the amount of barks in the safety hubs. You can now overpower volatiles with powerful weapons, reducing the amount of hits required to kill them. On the other end of that though, they've also increased the damage that enemies do to you. You are significantly more squishier in this patch compared to the previous one, so it takes a bit of a getting used to, but you're going to be damaged and possibly even dying a lot more until you get used to that change. They've also changed the effects on the enemies that are under toxic effect, fixed an issue where weapons crafted with craft masters had lower damage values than intended, effectively increasing damage. When grabbed, players can detach from fallen zombie to a freefall. Weapon damage rebalancing for previous in-game events and paid bundles. Added affix to the Dying Laugh charm, now granting plus 4% base damage bonus, but I think it's not actually plus 4%, because when I checked in game it was only plus 2%, and the little cowboy hat thingamabobby was actually 4% base damage. Moving on to the technical side of things, due to stability issues, we have temporarily disabled the quality game mode on Xbox Series X until they are resolved. If you played on quality before, the game will run in balanced mode now. We will update you on the further progress with that case. Switching from DX12 to DX11 correctly applies all the specific settings. Fixed an issue where players could get stuck in between rocks inside the prologue cave. Fixed the texture of the water that is seen from a certain distance. Controller vibration should work on all platforms. Optimization of 3D assets of some buildings, interiors, wind turbines and others. Fixed missing textures while looking at the buildings from a certain distance. Moving items to the stash will no longer reset the inventory list to the top. Oh, thank goodness. That was a little pet peeve of mine. That was annoying, but not game breaking, but I'm glad they actually changed that. And then on the UI, fixed localization text on timers, adjusted localized text in dialogues, adjusted the size of blueprint icons. While the compass visibility is off, it will be visible on extended HUD. Added an option to disable bows and crossbow reticule in HUD settings. Added an option to disable hit mark while hitting enemies. And then there are a couple of other silent changes that they didn't actually mention as part of this patch. A couple of them being some new barter and viral cosmetic changes, so there's a couple more female variants running around now. And they've also, I don't know if it's for the Halloween event or they're going to keep it, but they've also fiddled with the sizes of the zombies. So now there's some zombies that are quite a bit taller than us and some that are a bit shorter. It just adds a bit of variation, so I kind of like that change as well, but they didn't mention it here. And then let's move on to the Halloween event. So it's similar to last year's, with Bucker the Unfortunate chilling in a cage outside the bazaar, and he asked you to do a couple of bounties or quests similar to the other agents. Doing them will reward you with XP and more treats. You use those treats to unlock certain items, and they've added in a couple of new monster variants as well. There's the normal pumpkin-headed volatiles, but they've also added the pumpkin-headed tyrant volatile, and then they've also added banshee witches with a little Hogwarts-style witch hat on top, and they're quite a bit taller, bigger than the normal hag banshees. And then they've also added haunted barters. As part of this, you could also get a new couple of new weapons. So there's like an Edward Scissorhand type clawed weapon that's kind of cool, and then two new knife variants as part of this event. You can even get the blueprints for one of them, and the global goal is to get the blueprint for the Edward Scissorhand gloved hand Dimmerbobby weapon. As of this weekend, we're already about over halfway there. I'm pretty sure by the end of the weekend the global event will be completed. So this is, I don't know if Techland is watching this, but when you make global goals, do it in a way that it's part of playing the game. Because last year's event, where you had us do bounties, people would just do that to complete the participation goal and the personal goal, and then they will stop, because you have to go out of your way to do the bounties. But this global goal is collecting 400 million treats, which sounds a lot, but you get rewarded a lot by just playing and looting the zombies you come across. So it actually is feasible. So maybe stick to this sort of format in the future. And then also, if you go to the store I know what you're thinking, but if you go to the store in the game, the Dying Light Point store, scroll all the way to the bottom. The Plague Bundle is free until November the 16th, which comes with outfit, weapon, blueprint, and a new paraglider skin as well. You look like one of those Plague Witch Doctors type things. And then also don't forget to spend your treats at Bucker to unlock the knife blueprints, because they'll probably disappear on, I think this event runs, it runs until the 16th of November, so you have plenty of time. Just don't forget to unlock those goodies. So overall, I think this is a pretty decent step forward, and I'm actually glad that they've added this in. They've definitely listened to some of our feedback. Positive step forward. What do you guys think of this update? Let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I hope you all have a fantastic day. Take care, and cheers for now.